that the Swedish authorities did not investigate this case genuinely because they wanted to criminally prosecute him, but that they abused these allegations for other purposes. Because if you look at the allegations, the nature of them, and I have no opinion on whether they're true or false, I cannot prove them. Any prosecutor knows that whether a condom has been destroyed intentionally or accidentally, forensically you cannot prove that. You cannot prosecute a case like this. And the same was in the other case where the question was whether the woman was asleep or awake when they started their intercourse. It's something, you cannot prove it objectively. And this was obvious from the beginning when you look at the documents. And then you see that the experienced prosecutors keep this case at a level of a preliminary investigation where they don't have to disclose their evidence as long as possible without questioning Assange, but claiming that he is evading justice, that he's hiding in the embassy. But every time he tries to make it possible to be questioned, they find a reason why this is not possible.
And why, do you think?
Well, because the purpose was not to question him. As soon as they questioned him, they would have to conclude that they don't have enough evidence, they cannot charge him, and they would have to acquit him, and the case would be closed. But by maintaining this narrative of the fugitive rapist, the public would take distance. The people that supported the establishment of WikiLeaks in Sweden all of a sudden didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so the people disengaged, and we all started to discuss Julian Assange instead of discussing his revelations, the war crimes.
But what is the Swedish purpose, would you say, from your point of view?
Well, Sweden is a very close ally of the US. Since the 90s, a lot has changed, and I think we all know that. We also know WikiLeaks has for example, has disclosed these diplomatic cables of the Stockholm Embassy of the US from 2007-2008, where it is clear evidence that the Swedish government, behind the back of the Swedish parliament and the Swedish public, has been exchanging information with the American intelligence services illegally, unconstitutionally, and was telling the Americans, please don't ask us to make a treaty with you on this, because otherwise the public will find out and they will not like it. There's just to know there is clear evidence that there is a very close cooperation between the intelligence services of Sweden and the US behind much more than the public knows. But what we have to understand is that intelligence services and police forces are like watchdogs. They have to bark. They have to see dangers everywhere in order to protect us. But when you have a dog like this, you have to keep him on a leash. You have to keep him on oversight. You have to have transparency what these services are doing. And here I think we have lost control over them. Of course, Britain is a classic ally of the United States. And we can see it in relation, for example, to Swedish allegations that the British pushed very hard the Swedish authorities not to drop this case. When the Swedish prosecution in 2013 said, I think we have to drop this case, he's now in the embassy, there's no point in having this detention order, it's not proportionate. The British write an email back to the Swedish prosecutor, don't you dare get cold feet. And just to make clear, another person has been in the same situation legally in Britain before, and that was Augusto Pinochet, the previous dictator of Chile, who was accused of crimes against humanity, and he was kept in the villa in extradition detention, very luxurious, had visitors, and Julian Assange is being silenced and isolated in a cell without any need, to be honest. Now I have to tell you, I work every day with 193 states. And from experience, I can say that when states have clear proof that their behavior has been correct, they're very keen to present it. When they say no comment, it's usually a bad sign.